how acceptable is it for us to show up, be like, oh, I've got a headache. I'm just going to read out this Facebook post and then let's call it a day. You know, it's not a reasonable thing to do. Like, I think maybe there is some level of professionalism or responsibility of like showing up and just doing your job every week. I don't know. I don't know where I stand on it. Like, because people are expecting a podcast every week. We've told people we're going to have a podcast every week. We're doing this thing. We're calling it a podcast and so on. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
what am I trying to suggest? I'm not trying to say that like I think minute for minute this episode is probably more valuable or whatever than the longer episodes, right? But yeah, my point is just like, is it okay for us to have this mindset of like, oh, I'm not feeling it today?
I think it is. I think it's fine. I think also like it's also totally fine to just like not have an episode some weeks. Like who actually cares? It's like the thing that Paul Millard and Kei both have said at various interval points, which is that, like, for example, if you're having an email newsletter and you're doing it every week, it is okay to take a week off. Like, people, like, occasionally people might be like, oh, I was looking forward to your newsletter this week and it didn't arrive. But, like, really, it doesn't actually make any difference in the grand scheme of things if you skip a week. And if it's going to be better for your mental health to skip a week.
We do skip weeks though, right? Like the episode before last was an in-between episode because we
we do
decided not to record one.
Yeah, we didn't have time. Well, we didn't make the time to record one. It was an in-between episode. That's fine. But even an in-between episode, I think is a pretty reasonable. Like we can just not have an episode some weeks. It's not a big deal. Like no one will actually care. And so I think if you're feeling particularly great, like I think it's pretty clear that for both of us, this podcast is not a particularly high priority item in our lives relative to normal work and real life. Podcast comes, somewhere on the list of priorities, but certainly not position 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And so if you've got a pretty bad headache and you're not feeling it, then I don't think anyone would be like, oh, actually, we want to make sure that this is a job. You need to rock up and perform.
I see. Yeah.
Which I think is the benefit of doing podcasts like this, where it does have that kind of casual vibe, and it's not all right, welcome back in this week's episode, where it's sort of like a live on air every single week, showing up and doing your job thing. Who knows?
Yeah, I'll have more of a think about this. I'm not sure where I stand.